Today's adventure takes us to Warrenville, Illinois, and to Warrenville Cemetery. And behind me you can see one of the original posts to this cemetery, still in great shape. As a matter of fact, if you look in here, there's actually a little bell in there. And there's a post on the other side, a duplicate post, the same kind. But today we're here to explore this cemetery. Why? Because the founders of Warrenville are in here. Daniel and Julius Warren, they're buried in here along with their ancestors. And other pioneers that have founded this area are buried in this cemetery. There's tremendous history in this cemetery. This cemetery has 1,600 graves. It is still active. So now Warrenville has about 13,000 residents. And this cemetery here has about 1,600 graves, which means more than 10% of Warrenville's current population is in the cemetery. No, that's not right. But you know what I'm getting at. There's a lot of people buried in the cemetery compared to the population of Warrenville. So come join me as we explore Warrenville Cemetery. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are in Warrenville, Illinois, near Naperville, and we are in Warrenville Cemetery. Why am I in Warrenville Cemetery today? Because there's a lot of history in this cemetery. This cemetery dates back to the mid-1830s. And the founder of Warrenville is in this cemetery. We'll hopefully find his grave today. You can just see some of these wonderful old monuments, and so let's jump right into it, shall we? It looks like Rockwell is the name on this one. A little hard to tell, but that's what it looks like. "67 years of age. Very old. Here's the family name on the bottom here. Manning. Really old stuff. Looks like Sarah Manning, wife of, can't make out his name. Very old stuff here. A lot of these older monuments are pioneers that came to this area, generally from the East Coast, New York area. Stephen Ward, Private Company C, 7th Illinois Infantry. Thank you for your service. And here we have the Ward family monument. Miriam Douglas Ward, 1900, and Emma, I'm guessing his wife, 1906. Yeah, just a ton of history. Luther's the name here, son of Ellen P. Chandler, born 1824, died 1856. Luther Betts died 1882. Here's Horace. He died 1864. It's amazing that you can still see these. Absolutely amazing. We have Nettie, wife of J.R. Mather, born 1854, died 1883. And we see the obelisk here. Well, not really an obelisk. I really like this one. It says Mother, and there appears to be a wreath draped on it. That's very fancy for the day. Hannah Mathers, born 1813, died 1895. That is still in great shape. And here we have Israel Mather, died 1866 at the age of 57. And you can see the tree. So I've seen willow trees, but this is interesting because it looks like the branch is actually cut off here. That's a nice spin on the willow tree. Man, I mean, this cemetery, about 1,600 graves here. Many of them go back to the 1800s. This is really nice. The Mack family. George. This looks like Jonathan. Not exactly sure what that's supposed to be. Maybe a rose. Here's son of E.P. and M. Mack. Died 1874 at the age of 25. These are in great shape. A little faded, you know. Charles up there. That's not Charles, because the daughter looks like Charlotte. That's what it is. Daughter of E.P. and M. Mack. Died 1874 at the age of 28. Died young. It's a shame, but that was part of life in the 1800s. Life was not easy at all. Talk about having to work for everything. You had to work for everything, and then there was disease, and you had no antibiotics. So it was not easy life whatsoever. Daniel on this one, you see the American flag. That's really nice. Fowler. Yeah. That's a very nice one. And here's Ferdinand. And I actually have a story about these two. We have Private Daniel Fowler right there, and this is Corporal Ferdinand Fowler, right there. So in March, Ferdinand Fowler was discharged from the 105th Illinois Infantry due to illness. His parents, Henry and Esther, were no doubt glad to have their son home on the family farm just south of Warrenville. So that would be more toward Naperville. Sadly, Ferdinand was only back on the farm 1 week before succumbing to a disease of the lungs on March 19th. So unfortunately, he passed away. He passed away rather young. He was 21 years old. And it says, before the Fowlers can even begin to emotionally recover, the news of death of their youngest son, Daniel, who's this? Him right here, reached them. He had died in Gallatin, Tennessee on March 21st in the Civil War. He was a Civil War soldier. Daniel's body arrived home on the 27th of March. It cost $63 to have his body sent to Warrenville, including a sparse coffin it was shipped in. So that's something. $63, a lot of money back then. A lot of money. And here's the brothers who died weeks apart, unfortunately. It's interesting that they said he died of disease of the lungs. You know, and I almost think, did he have an asthma attack or something and passed away? I wouldn't think it'd be lung cancer at that young age, but who knows? He was only 21. So who knows exactly what he died of, but the two young men, the Fowler boys, who died weeks apart. Such a shame. And here's the grave of Sergeant Ashley Carpenter. I'm going to tell you his story here. He was 20 years old when he passed away. And I'm going to tell you a story directly from his mother. His mother's name was Sarah. This is her notes from 1895, and this is what she wrote about her son. In 1862, our oldest son, Ashley, and a boy that had lived in our family 12 years, Robert Corlett, 4 years older than our son, enlisted. We hoped then the war would soon be over. The regiment was first in Chicago, then at Dixon, and then back to Chicago. Before leaving Dixon, our son was sick, so he obtained a furlough and came home for a few days. Then they were sent to Kentucky. He had only been home 2 months when Ashley was taken sick from hard marching and exposure. We received a letter that the physician and surgeon of the 105th, Dr. Potter, with whom we were well acquainted, saying Ashley is sick. We obliged to push on south. I leave him in the hands of a good physician. And whatever the result, Ashley is all right. He has the confidence and respect of the whole regiment, and is every inch a hero. We soon received a dispatch sent to his brother, Philo Carpenter, whose son brought it to us at 11 o'clock at night, and at 2 o'clock that morning he was on his way to Chicago hoping to take the morning train south, but could not get passes, and his money changed in time, so had to wait till the evening train. When he arrived at Bowling Green, he hurried on to Scottsville as fast as possible. He found Ashley just alive, but past speaking. Though they thought he knew he had come, had been looking very anxious for him. That's kind of a weird sentence. Though they thought he knew he had come, had been looking very anxious for him. They started as quickly as possible, expecting to travel all night, hoping to meet the morning train at Bowling Green. But there was a very severe thunderstorm in the night, and they had to stop at the house of a rebel. They arrived in time, but it was because the train was delayed 2 hours. The young friend that took care of Ashley was left at Bowling Green sick. He only lived 2 weeks. On arriving at Chicago, was met by friends. Took him to the undertaker's, and the next forenoon about 40 of our relatives went to see the remains. My husband had 3 sisters and a brother, and I had 3 sisters living there at the time. My husband came home that night, and the next afternoon 2 of my sisters came out with the remains. Funeral Friday. Ashley was the first one of our regiment to be brought home, and in a very short time 14 soldiers were laid in our little cemetery at Warren. That is quite a story, directly from Sarah, Ashley's mother, recounts in 1895. And yeah, there are a lot of Civil War soldiers in this cemetery. Thank you for your service. What a story. I mean, it's just amazing when you hear recounts from family members. You know, kind of really drives it home that it's not just a tombstone in the ground. I mean, it's a person that had a life and family and all that stuff, served his country. These are some remarkable tombstones. I mean, this cemetery, very few tombstones have fallen. This is amazing, really. Looks like Sue's in here. Daughter of something. Mary Williams died 1845, I believe that is. George Washington, everyone. Yeah, I don't think it's the George Washington, the first president of the United States. I don't think that's the case. But that's pretty neat. Hard to read the rest of that. Maybe you can read it better on the screen. And then we have Sam. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe Samuel? I don't know. Williams, it looks like. Remarkable. Got Mary, wife of William Williams, died April 16th, it looks like, I don't know what number that is, 60? 79 years old. And here's William Williams. And next to him is William J., son of Mary and William Williams. Looks like he died That looks like 1851. Pretty neat. So I see this one over here as well. This isn't as old. Christian Star, U.S. Coast Guard, 1986 to 2007. When I was doing my research on this cemetery, I read a little story how he died. He was actually in Hawaii and jumped off a cliff into water, and unfortunately the current got him and he drowned. So very, very sad for Christian, you know, probably having fun out there in Hawaii and didn't think anything of it and jumped off a cliff into the water, and unfortunately didn't realize the dangers that were lurking. That's too bad. We have a lot of tombstones here. You can see this area here, and it's hard to see on camera, but there's a lot of sunken areas, sunken graves, unmarked sunken graves. Here we have Dr. Hiram something Olin, it looks like, maybe. And you have the broken column, life cut short, age 35, so young, rather young man. And then next to him is Sarah, with the finger pointing up, wife of John Billings. October 25th, 1855, aged, it's hard to tell what that age is, 20-something it looks like. Very young. Rows and rows of tombstones from the 1800s. So I'm just going to go past them here. Got Laura Brown. This one I don't think you can read. Here is Clarissa. Desire Graves, is that right? Desire Graves. That is quite a name. I see 1815. It looks like the 1890 something. But yeah, these are great. Just great. Wonderful, wonderful tombstones. And here we have the oldest tombstone in this cemetery, Melissa Galusha. See there, age 20, born 1814, died 1834. The first one buried here in this cemetery. There's the grave of Melissa. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the founders of Warrenville. Yes, the Warren family. We have Daniel Warren and his son, Colonel Julius Morton Warren, that came here and founded Warrenville. And here we have the grave of Daniel and his wife Nancy and their children, pioneers and founders, gave the name to Warrenville. Let me move that stick off there. So a little excerpt here. Daniel was one of the pioneers of Illinois. Daniel Warren was a successful businessman who came to embrace the opportunity to secure a large landed estate at small original outlay. He was a native of Massachusetts, born in 1780. In the spring of 1833, while Chicago was scarcely thought of as a city, he came here. He built the sawmill, laid out a town of Warrenville. So he had a sketch of what he wanted the town to look like. And with his son Colonel Julius Morton Warren, Julius claimed 160 acres of land, which what is now Warrenville. And here's Daniel Warren here, 1866, his wife Nancy. So his son Julius built the first house here. He built a tavern and hotel, which still stands today. He built a sawmill with his father. He was the first postmaster here. And here's Julius. He was the first postmaster here and was postmaster for 25 years. And we see Julius right here. And they were friends with Joe Naper. And Joe Naper actually told him to come this way. And Joe Naper, of course, the founder of Naperville. And I did a video about Joe Naper last year in Naperville Cemetery. So go check that out if you haven't already. But here we go, the graves of the Warrens. We have Daniel Warren, his wife Nancy, his son Julius. And that was his only son, but he did have, Daniel did have, I believe, 6 or 7 daughters as well, who were all in the area. And right near the Warren family plot, we have the Watson family. Thomas Watson, who died 1897. Now he was born in Ireland in 1818. He came to America in 1826. He came to New York, as most people did back then. At 15, he became a blacksmith. In 1836, he came to Warrenville, although it wasn't called Warrenville back then, although maybe it was. I don't know. Came to Warrenville, opened blacksmith shop, and built some of the first plows in the area. And he married Mary Klein in 1844, and they had 6 sons. And here you do see Thomas. You see here's his wife Mary, who died 1896, a year before he died. And we have Daniel here, who died in, looks like 1963, or is that 1860? That's 1863. So Daniel was young when he died. And then we have Walter. He died also 1863, November. Oh, that's sad. November 17th for Daniel, and Walter, November 19th. Both of them young. How sad. Thomas had 2 sons. Thomas and Mary had 2 sons, and they both died 2 days of each other. I'm sure from cholera or typhoid or some other disease. Okay, everybody, I want to thank you so much for taking your time today to come with me on this walk here in Warrenville Cemetery. Beautiful old pioneer cemetery. It's amazing some of the history of these old settlers, the ones that came here in the 1830s, founded this area, founded Warrenville, the hardships they had to go through, especially during the Civil War and all the Civil War soldiers. So I really appreciate you coming with me today. And as always, until next time, keep exploring.